Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you tonight about our vision for a new path for autism at UVA. We'd actually like to start with a story tonight. This is the story of the Curran family. Alicia, Ed, their 3 girls, who you see here, and their youngest son, Sam. Alicia couldn't be here with us tonight, but she wanted me to share their story with you, so I'm going to read that to you now. When Sam was born, since we already had 3 girls, you can imagine how excited we were to find that our last child was a boy. But in 2001, when Sam was 1 year old, several little red flags started showing up, but they were subtle and easy to dismiss. At age 2, those differences became more obvious. And by age 3, we realized they were actually really big red flags. Sam almost never responded to his name when we called it. He never pointed. He spun the wheels of his cars instead of playing with them. And he hadn't spoken his first word yet at age 3. I was terrified. There was no denying that my worst nightmare was a reality. I knew in my heart that Sam had autism. Confirming his diagnosis was an extremely long and painful process that left me feeling confused and completely helpless while I was waiting for answers. I'm a mom. I'm supposed to be able to fix things, but I didn't have a clue where to start. I had very little knowledge of autism and lots of questions and assumptions constantly swirling in my head. This led me to a place of unknown, a place where I felt paralyzed by the grief of knowing that my son's life was going to be very different from what I'd imagined, and tremendous guilt of not bringing my concerns to our physician earlier. The Currans lived in a very small town, about 95 miles from the nearest autism specialist and a world apart. They describe autism as a journey of unknown. They were disconnected and lost and confused and worried. They didn't know where to turn to for help or if there was any help to be found. Today we want to share with you our vision for how we can change that path of unknown into a path of hope and connection. The impact of autism is significant. We know that autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder which affects the way the brain develops from the earliest phases of life, and it affects functioning across multiple areas, including social interactions and relationships, communication, daily living skills, any aspect of life you can think of. And the prevalence is increasing rapidly. Currently, 1 in 68 children have autism in the United States. 3.5 million Americans have autism. This means that everyone in this room tonight is touched by autism in some way. Either you or someone in your family has autism. You may have neighbors or friends with autism. You certainly have people in your community with autism. This means that more and more people are affected, more and more families and people with autism need our help, and there are more and more questions that need to be answered. Yet we have few answers. We don't yet know what causes autism. There's not a single treatment that works for everyone. There are few trained professionals and limited local resources. These are critical gaps, and we need to find better solutions.
As Micah said, most people are impacted by autism in some way, but I'm curious if you raise your hand if you've been impacted by autism. You have a family member that has autism, a community member that has autism. It's a significant amount of us, right, as we go through that. It's unbelievable. So there's a lot of unanswered questions, and I think these will sound familiar to you. What caused this? What will make this better? Where can I find help? What about the future? And these are large questions, but they're small questions too, like, am I ever going to be able to go out with my child to eat dinner? What will happen if my child has some kind of behavioral concern at the mall? Will the first responders know how to handle them? What will happen when my child graduates from high school and there's no longer services? And of course, the big question for a lot of parents as their kids age, what will happen to my child when I'm not there?
Imagine if we could close these gaps and we had ready answers for families. If we knew more about autism, we could change the course of development for children. We could change the path for Sam and thousands of children like him if we knew about those core components that cause autism, we could develop better treatments, better and more effective diagnostic tools. And at UVA, we have the expertise and the skills to be able to do just that. There's exciting research happening in the field of neuroscience at UVA right now, giving us exciting clues about the origins of autism at the level of the brain. By combining that knowledge with the expertise we have at Curry in assessment and intervention, we could change the course of development for children. We could develop better diagnostic tools and faster, much earlier interventions. Imagine if families like Alicia and thousands of other families just like them had access to easy and effective supports and services in their own communities where they live. At UVA, we want to make that a reality. We're working to develop better, more effective services. Family resource navigation is a big part of that. We know that families often do feel lost and confused and disconnected, and we want to provide that support from them from the time of diagnosis through that journey so that they feel connected to resources. We're also planning to harness technology so that families can access the best possible services no matter where they live in Virginia.
Imagine if communities were built to be welcoming to individuals with autism, from the school building to the schoolyard to a community setting to the mall to the restaurant. Communities, our goal is to have communities, work with communities to be welcome and fully support individuals with autism. And a big concern when it comes to becoming welcome communities is capacity. As Micah said, the rate of autism has spiked, and starkly so, and capacity is a huge concern. And this is not an effort that we'll be able to do on our own. Our goal is to work with our partners. We have several of them here, Virginia Institute on Autism, Faison, in order to develop comprehensive support for individuals with autism. And we want to significantly ramp up training. Training for teachers. Currently, right now, up in Northern Virginia, there are hundreds, and I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of special education positions open. Hundreds. And the ones that are filled are often filled with people that are on emergency certification, aren't certified to teach special education, and have zero background in autism. We need to work with our partners, both the university and communities, in order to provide the training that these individuals need to make a difference. And so we'll build on our strengths in telehealth and telecommunication and our partners without the state in order to make this happen. Imagine if, instead of seeing an individual with autism as just a series of difficulties, we realize that they have strengths. Everyone who raised your hand who has been impacted by a child or an individual with autism realizes that they have strengths too. So imagine if we developed interventions based on those strengths. Instead of seeing them as only having problems, we acknowledge some of the significant strengths they have, oftentimes about recognizing patterns and persisting long on tasks and often working with computers. At UVA, that's our goal. We want to partner with people with autism. We don't see us providing services to them or dictating to individuals with autism at their family. We want to partner with them. We want to provide services that are going to accentuate their strengths, just like you want for any child that you have, whether they have autism or not. We want to harness their interests and skills and work with them to provide them the skills to have fulfilling lives in the community and in vocational settings. And we want to change the conversation so that we're focusing on abilities first. Imagine if public policy within the state and the country was set up to support our efforts in doing this, both within research and providing services and training for individuals with autism and those that serve them. At UVA, that's our goal, to focus on workforce development. Parents are often concerned about what happens with their kids once they leave high school and the public education setting. We need to work on those gaps in services and ensure that we're providing a comprehensive services and supports for individuals as they progress through their life. We also want to close the gaps for families. The system trajectory was so quick and people worked so hard to help, but there's huge gaps. There's huge gaps that public policy needs to address, from birth and to nursing homes. We want to be a part of that conversation and make sure we can make a difference.
So these are ambitious goals, but we believe at Curry and at UVA we have the skills, the expertise, and the passion, and the partnerships to be able to achieve these goals. So our next steps across these three areas are in the area of research to continue our exciting work in basic neuroscience all the way through applied interventions, to develop better tools, technologies, and techniques for helping support people with autism. In the area of services, we want to expand and develop new services from diagnostic practices all the way through intervention. Family navigation will be a big part of that to make sure that families feel supported in their communities. In the area of training, we know we need more professionals across the Commonwealth who are trained to work with people with autism and to support them. So we're going to do that by training students and pre-professional students across disciplines, as well as community professionals who are already working in our communities throughout Virginia. All these activities we hope will be supported by an integrated and dynamic database that will allow us to share data from lab to clinic to school to learn more discoveries and learn more about which treatments are working for which people.
And we're not going to be able to do this alone. We're going to need your help. This is a community issue. This is a national issue. This is a global issue. And so if we're going to create transformative solutions, we're going to have to collaborate and work together in order to solve them. And you'll notice with this particular figure, we have people with autism and their families playing a prominent role. We need to honor the individual and the families and bring support and services to them. So we want to bring, our goal is to bring people together and work in order to provide the comprehensive support that individuals with autism deserve. We have lots of partners at UVA. I would imagine a lot of you are alums of UVA, and you probably recognize some of these, from the School of Law to the newly developed Brain Institute to the Children's Hospital. We have to work across UVA for sure. And we also have to work with our partners. That's why they're here. They're the ones that are working with individuals with autism on a daily basis, working hard to make a difference. Both the universities up here, such as VCU and Faison and VIA that I mentioned before, but also George Mason and a variety of different organizations. Our goal is to reach every community in Virginia. And you'll notice there's no arrows here, and that wasn't a mistake. There's no arrows there because this is work we have to do together. We don't have all the answers. No one has all the answers. We need to work together in order to solve this problem. And we're thinking globally too. We have just started a program to train teachers and affiliated individuals to provide services for individuals with autism in Beijing, China and Shanghai, China. So we're thinking, although we're working within our state, we're thinking globally as well, because it really is a global problem.
So tonight we'd like to invite you to come with us on this journey to help us change the path of autism from a journey of unknown to a journey of hope and connection, where we're all headed towards a brighter future together. Thank you.
Thank you.